There he is. I will start. I think I'll start. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to this session on child-sensitive NDC 3.0. I'm very pleased to see so many of you here, despite being a Saturday afternoon. My name is Maria Osbeck. I work for UNICEF. I'm the regional advisor on climate change and environment. And I'm pleased to be moderating this session today to be able to discuss and learn from each other on what a child-sensitive NDC 3.0 is in practice. And I'm very pleased to have the representation from 3 countries in our region, Moldova, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan, to inform us on what are your experience on child-sensitive NDCs. So with no further ado, I will introduce the panelists. This event is co-organized with UNDP, our great partner in climate change and environment. And I'm pleased also to have the representation of youth. We have Leila Jusko. Leila Jusko is the coordinator of local COI in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have Shokanova Aidana from Kyrgyzstan. Shokanova coordinated the regional COI, which is the regional meeting for youth to prepare for COP meetings. And it was coordinated with youth from all the countries in Central Asia and Afghanistan. So we're very pleased to have you here, and we will listen to your intervention. We're also very pleased to have the Vice Minister of Environment from Kazakhstan, Mr. Mansour Oshurbayev. A warm welcome. And we're also pleased to have the State Secretary of Environment from Moldova, Ms. Aliona Rusnak, and also a long-term expert in climate change, senior advisor to the Minister of Environment in Ukraine, Ms. Natalia Kushko. A warm welcome to all of you. We will hear interventions from the representatives of the UN and from youth, and then we will hear interventions from our government counterparts. But I would also like to welcome our dear Deputy Executive Director from UNICEF, Kitty van den Heijden, who has spearheaded our work on climate change and our work on making climate change a core issue for UNICEF globally, but also here in the region. So I'm very happy that you're here today, and I will hand over to Kitty to make the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, and welcome all here in the NDCP pavilion. There's no more important pavilion than this one. Because if we don't get the NDCs right, we don't get the world right, and we're failing children. So that's what you need to take as a takeaway message. But I will begin with an admission. And I'll begin with an admission that I'm terribly ashamed to make. And I'll do it nevertheless. I've been a climate negotiator for more years than I care to count. But it's more than the fingers of these 2 hands. I've worked in climate science for more years than you can count on one hand, in one of the largest think tanks in the world dealing with climate change and environment issues. So you would say I'm somewhat of an expert on these matters, right? Somewhat. Isn't it bizarre that never in all of those years did I think that it would be relevant, rational, to look at the disproportionate impacts of climate change on children? It just never occurred to me. I didn't think about it. Yes, we negotiated hard on gender-responsive climate action. We had many debates on the relevance of including indigenous peoples as disproportionately affected by climate change. And not once in all those years did I think it was important to argue the case that children are uniquely and disproportionately vulnerable to climate change. I'm ashamed of that. And perhaps part of my revenge is joining UNICEF and making it right. Because what we fought for in COP28 really was a historic decision. For the first time in the history of UNFCCC, never before have we done that. We took a decision in UNFCCC in Dubai that recognized the disproportionate impacts and that mandated an expert dialogue on children and climate change in the SB60. Prior to the SB60, we published this report, the first ever report. This is the summary only, a threat to progress. Because what we see across all the climate impacts, whether it's heat, it's floods, it's hurricane, it's droughts, that children are always harder impacted than us as adults because their immune systems are immature, because they drown, because they cannot swim, because it leads to cognitive decline if you can't get your food, because you cannot learn in a classroom when it's 45 plus degrees of temperature. And it is extremely important that now that we're at COP29, that we continue that mandate and we continue forward to make sure that we do the right things. Ambitious NDCs that keep the world of a degree and a half within reach. Ambitious NDCs that focus on making sure that children are not just the victim, but are targeted in the NDC action plans, and we make sure that young people participate in the future that affects them. And let me look at some of the statistics of what this means for children in this particular region, because globally, and I don't even know what that looks like anymore, we have 1 billion children, 1 billion children that are at extreme risk of climate change. That's an insane number. What does it mean in Central Asia and Europe? 160 million children in this region are at high risk of climate change. The top 3 risks, environmental risks, climate change related risks for children under 5, you can't miss them: air pollution, heat, and poor water quality. These are all things that are in our hands that we can change by the decisions we aim to take with better NDCs. In 2021, we failed, that's my definition, we failed 6,400 children and teenagers in 23 countries across Asia and Central Asia and Europe because they died prematurely because of air pollution. And most of them, 5,500, didn't even make it to their first birthday, because the younger you are, the more vulnerable you are to impacts of air pollution. 1 in 2 children in this region face heat waves. You're extremely vulnerable to heat waves that last longer, that are more intense and more frequent in every respect. The average in this region is 1 in 4. So you are a region that's highly vulnerable, and all the more important that we get these NDCs right, but also that we make sure that climate finance comes to your region. But if that climate finance isn't put for the right cause, which is child-related, child-responsive, programmatic measures, we will simply continue business as usual. And that means we will be failing children. So I'm calling on the entire region to work with us as UNICEF, to work with young children that can speak more eloquently than my generation can on what's happening to their lives and to their dreams and their hopes for the future, to have ambitious NDCs, to make them child responsive, and to argue the case as you negotiate on behalf of your countries here in COP29 that we must have a child-responsive NCQG, because currently just 2.4% of all the global multilateral climate finance goes to child-related causes. Even if there is no more money, within the same portfolio, we can simply do better. And if we don't, we will continue to fail the world and the world's children. Maria, back to you.
Thank you, Kitty. And before I hand over to the director of UNDP's hub in Istanbul, I will give the floor to Leila from Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Thank you. Just let me check. Okay, this works. I always have issues with microphones. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of children and youth in Bosnia-Herzegovina. I am a youth delegate and youth representative of Bosnia-Herzegovina within the delegation of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And being here, it's not just a personal milestone. It's actually a testament of what happens when you give young people and children the opportunity, support, and trust to act, to lead. And one very thing that I want to emphasize is that I stand today here as an advocate for extending that trust to children and youth all over the region. My journey to this platform began as a single act of trust, and you will hear a lot of the word trust because I think that's the most crucial part of establishing a very good platform and collaboration. When I was entrusted to co-lead the local conference of youth for climate action in Bosnia-Herzegovina, I saw firsthand how this trust and belief in young people can drive transformative action. When we began, we had no support, but during our path, we managed to establish a common goal, which was enhancing and emphasizing local climate action in local communities done by young people. And we managed to establish a collaboration with UNICEF, UNDP, and IOM in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And this event, I'm so proud of that, engaged 400 young people from the entire Bosnia-Herzegovina. And what we did, we developed a national youth statement and youth recommendations for COP29, which were basically represented this year at our parliament of Bosnia-Herzegovina. So we actually also managed to gather support from different stakeholders, from UN agencies to our government directly. And the ELCO experience in Bosnia-Herzegovina revealed a key insight. As Ms. Kitty mentioned before, children, especially infants and babies, are uniquely vulnerable to climate change. And young people, as you can see here, are not waiting for the permission to act. They're acting now and they're leading the climate action. And we need support to act. And this support, and to sustain our efforts and scale our impact, we need just more than talking about it. We need a concrete and concise steps. And these steps, I managed to summarize them from youth recommendations, what these steps include. Firstly, young people need to be included in formal inclusion in NDC processes, which means establishing youth advisory boards and integrating young people into climate policy development to ensure that our perspectives are heard and acted upon. Secondly, we need capacity building initiatives, which means providing training, resources, and mentorship to equip young people with knowledge and skills to lead effectively. But also what I noticed, we need follow-up more often, to not leave those educational workshops hanging and just there. We need actually concise steps. We also need one of the most important things, which goes beyond youth participation, financial and institutional support, which means creating funding mechanisms to support youth-driven projects and strengthen the essential projects and to protect and empower children and youth. You know, when I was beginning and establishing the local conference of youth, I said at the beginning, I had no support. But I was willing to make it work because I saw the motivation of young people through my whole country. When we're talking about the challenges that we face, I feel like when I was listening to your intervention that challenges we face are very interconnected across the different regions. And even though I come from the European region, I also resonate with the challenges which are faced in other regions. And the ELCO in Bosnia-Herzegovina has focused on diverse priorities, and some of them were improving air quality because we're combating severe bad quality, which goes beyond the air quality index. Like the hazardous amount is 500. Last year in Sarajevo, the air quality index was 530. So just imagine, we should have been all wearing masks. So how does that impact young people and children? Also, investing in essential services for children and youth, but also the need for regional cooperation so we can strengthen the initiatives which are based in one country. We need the support of everybody. Also, issues like deforestation, transboundary pollution, and shared water resources, they do require collaborative approaches that transcend borders, because climate change doesn't know borders. It doesn't know religion, it doesn't know a nationality, it doesn't recognize or differentiate between vulnerable groups. I think we're all becoming one big vulnerable group at this point. Also, when it comes to youth inclusion in NDCs, it should not be just a symbolic gesture. It should be a strategic imperative, which means that when young people are trusted, they deliver. I stand here as the person, like the example of that. I was trusted and I acted because I was trusted. And the engagement of 400 young people in our national youth statement is the growing momentum of youth-led climate action globally. And still to this day, when I was posting stories from COP, I had more than 50 young people reaching out to me saying, we want to know more. So they are interested, they are motivated, they just need the trust. That's the most important thing. And to fully realize the potential of young people, we need to do following three things. We need to institutionalize youth participation. As I said before, establishing formal mechanisms of youth involvement, recognizing youth-led contributions, which basically means highlighting and supporting the efforts of young people in different areas, and also building partnerships, which means strengthening collaboration between governments, international organizations, and youth networks to ensure sustained support for youth-led initiatives. And one thing in closing of my statement, I really urge you to trust young people, to put trust in them. We have to remember that being young at this moment and being young 50 years ago is not the same thing. We're overloaded with different information, and sometimes it can be a bit overbearing. Climate anxiety is a real thing. It exists. And therefore, we really need to build the bridges between young people and different stakeholders, and to really look at young people as a part of the society. We're not alien. We're not another category. We're a part of the society, an integral part of society which will carry the future of the world. And together, we can really create a climate-resilient future, one which is inclusive, sustainable, and driven by collective responsibility, but also this individual responsibility, which is the most important thing. And just one final remark, let us trust in the power of youth to shape the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leila. Thank you. Thank you so much for so eloquently sharing your experiences. I will now invite Shukanova from Kyrgyzstan to share the experiences from the regional COI.
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Aidana. I am representative from Kyrgyz Republic. I'm here today sitting as a voice for children and youth and girls from Kyrgyz Republic, from a region where the mountains is as real as the climate change that is happening in the world. I am honored to share our vision in climate decision making, and we hope that our vision will be considered by the presidency of the COP and by the climate decision-making ministries. Okay, children and youth from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and even Afghanistan came together with an understanding that climate change is an abstract, and that children and youth are impacted disproportionately by climate change. In order to make our statement inclusive, we have conducted a number of national consultations on all Central Asian countries and Afghanistan, as well as regional consultations in 2 languages. More than 500 people were involved in regional processes, and at a 2-day conference in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan this September, we have brought more than 250 young people, not only from Central Asian countries and Afghanistan, but even from India, Mongolia, South Korea, and Canada. Our statement brings together the demands and aspirations of a generation that is aware that climate change is very dangerous. This document consists of 8 sections and even more of cross-cutting topics. Also, our regional statement has become a part of global youth statement, which we will deliver here at the COP29 for the presidents of the COP, for the decision makers, and for the Antonio Guterres and Simon Steele. We hope that climate decision making isn't a privilege, and it is our right. We have done the work, we have raised the issues, and we have acted. We're not just asking for support, we're demanding partnership, and the youth of Central Asia and Afghanistan are ready to lead, but we need global decision makers to listen, act, and invest. In our youth statement, we focused on several urgent demands, and I'd like to highlight the important ones. We call for the active involvement of children and youth in the implementation of the Agenda for Sustainable Development in mountain regions. This includes monitoring glacier conditions and developing strategies to prevent the effects of glacier melting, and adapting sustainable development management practices by participating in developing of methods that prevent land degradation. We call for meaningful children and youth inclusion in the next updated and the national determined contributions and climate finance investment in the sectors that are important for children and youth, such as health, social protection, and education. We call for the creation of youth consultative groups within national policy bodies and for young representatives to be a part of UNFCCC delegations. We urge governments to integrate youth perspective in the formulation and implementation of NDCs. This includes providing training, capacity building, and educational programs to empower and support youth initiatives at every level to actively contribute to climate change. Young people must play a critical role in water diplomacy and resource management, from leading local initiatives to shaping international agreements. By involving youth in developing innovative solutions, we can work together to prevent water crisis and ensure sustainable development. We call on the global community to acknowledge and compensate for the irreversible losses faced by vulnerable communities, especially vulnerable children. We are asking for climate justice into every policy and ensure that inclusive adaptation strategies that leave no one behind. Women and girls must be more proactively involved in climate decision-making. Girls and women demand equal access to climate education, green jobs, and dedicated health programs that address the unique impacts of climate change on girls' health. We demand flexible and accountable green finance mechanisms that include special funds for youth-led, women-led, and minority-led environmental projects. The transparency and effectiveness in the operations of relevant agencies are essential to make these initiatives a success. Together we can drive toward a low-carbon future that is just, sustainable, and inclusive. So I hope that you will help us to make sure that our voices today echoes not only in this room, but across the borders and across generations and straight into the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Aidana. So now over to another UN sister organization that is playing an instrumental role in moving the increased ambition for NDC 3.0. I'm very happy that you had time to join us here, Steliana Nadera, the director of UNDP hub in Istanbul.
Thank you very much. It is a true pleasure to be together in this conversation. And I think definitely everything that I have heard so far resonates a lot with our values and what we definitely bring to our work. The NDC 3.0 Forum for Europe and Central Asia region this year was organized like an ad hoc event because our region was not included previously in climate weeks organized by the UNFCCC. But after meeting in Bonn, it became clear that we have to host such a conversation in our region. So at the Istanbul regional hub, we were very happy to take the lead, thanks to the colleagues who advocated hard, and organized it very quickly in 2 months. So we were happy to host representatives from all governments in our region, along with representatives of youth, with 8 young people coming from a group that we are working with very closely at UNDP, the Generation Nexus Network, and UNICEF designated representatives. And it was a very timely event because it continued the conversation happening in previous months, but it also connected the agencies that are usually organizing the climate weeks, UNEP, NDC Partnerships and UNDP, with under the technical support of the UNFCCC Secretariat, with UNICEF, with FAO, and helped us together to unpack what do ambitious and implementable and investable NDCs mean for us in the third generation. This is when the voice of young people was really powerful and important for us because they took part in all the discussions, and we had thematic sessions looking into aspects of just transition, looking into how we can make sure that the NDCs have people at the center. They are done for our communities, for all groups, for young people, for women. And I feel that this discussion was very rich and really resulted in both a better networking among all participants, better understanding of what to aim for in each of the country-led processes and preparation of the NDCs, which is a very ambitious process and time-bound, as well as how to be better prepared for the conversations that are happening right now at the COP. I am very happy that we are here, and the voice comes much stronger because in May this year we had a meeting with young people, just a youth workshop when we wanted to brainstorm on different topics. We had with us Leila Hassanova, who is the youth champion of the COP, and this is when she announced that she was going to write to all delegations coming to the COP, inviting them to include young people in the delegation. So I think this is a powerful sign of change, and the fact that we together are able to come up with step by step with a more inclusive conversation and more powerful goal of including children, including the voice of young people. As this is a commitment, these are negotiations that are done for their future and will affect them directly in the years and decades to come. We stand firm to work together with UNICEF in every country where we operate to help our partners with this third generation of NDCs. The time is short, a lot of work ahead of us, but we stand ready. And also I align my voice to the appeal that Kitty made earlier of having children included into the both mitigation and adaptation aspects of climate change, which is very important for all of us as we work towards these agendas. Thank you very much and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Steliana, and also thank you for the invitation to continue this very important partnership. We very much look forward to that, and I believe that one of the key things that came out from the NDC 3.0 workshop in Istanbul was indeed the focus on the disproportionate impact on children, and also the discussion between members of governments on the role of youth participation versus the role of us as UN agencies and governments to take the lead in moving forward with climate change education, with health, and with social protection. And I will now hand over to our distinguished representatives from the government to share some of the experiences so far in your country on how you have moved forward with this discussion. So I will invite our government representatives to take the seat. Yeah, please.
Translate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, distinguished Vice Minister Mansour Oshubaya, over to you to make your intervention.
Можно попросить второй микрофон?
Maybe second microphone.
Second microphone. I speak.
Can you give me a second microphone? Thank you. Спасибо.
Thank you so much. Спасибо. Спасибо, уважаемый ЮНИСЕФ, что хотел бы выразить вам благодарность за то, что вы пригласили нас сегодня на данное мероприятие. Очень тесно, но очень уютно на самом деле сегодня было собраться в вашем павильоне.
Thank you very much, all the participants and UNICEF in particular. It's a very tiny but very cozy place. And we are gathered here to discuss very important
Но
issues.
самое главное, что у нас у всех одна миссия. Мы все хотим защитить самых уязвимых среди нас. Это наши дети. И никогда не было ничего более актуальнее, чем это.
The most important thing is that we are here to gather to discuss very important issues for our children, for our youth, and it's never late to discuss these issues.
Кроме того, мне очень приятно, и я бы хотел поблагодарить, что представители молодежи прибыли на COP29, чтобы поддержать делегацию Казахстана в ходе переговоров.
And I would like to particularly highlight that we here from Kazakhstan, as a delegation, we have representatives of youth together with us.
Их участие является ярким примером нашей приверженности, вовлечению и расширению полномочий молодежи в сфере климатических действий, о чем сегодня говорила наша коллега Лайла, по-моему.
Their participation is another confirmation that we are supporting the youth and the vulnerable parts of society.
Как вы знаете, наша страна очень сильно подвержена различным климатическим вызовам, которые угрожают окружающей среде и благополучию людей.
As you might know, Kazakhstan is most vulnerable to a number of climatic issues which affect our society.
Мы переживаем погодные изменения, это повышение температуры, нехватка воды и все более экстремальные погодные явления.
We are susceptible to a number of issues with water shortages, with climate change, with heat waves, and extreme changes in weather conditions.
В целом, я думаю, все знаете, что все слышали, в текущем году наша страна столкнулась с паводками, которых не было последние 80 лет. И это прямой показатель климатических изменений, которые мы пережили с учетом разрушений и восстановления после нашей стране.
And as you might know, Kazakhstan has suffered significantly this year because of the flooding that we had never experienced this for last 80 years. And this, of course, caused major challenges to the economic development and what we do.
В ответ на эти вызовы Казахстан полностью настроен на принятие эффективных мер по борьбе с изменением климата. И мы рады поделиться с вами недавними инициативами, такими как глобальная низкоуглеродная платформа, направленная на развитие международного сотрудничества, и инициатива «Карбоновое земледелие», которая продвигает устойчивую сельскохозяйственную практику и усиливает углеродное поглощение.
So in response to this, Kazakhstan is fully committed to taking effective measures to fight climate change. We are ready and happy to share our very recent initiatives, like the global low carbon partnership for sustainable development and the initiative of carbon soil use, farming, which is moving the sustainable agricultural practices and is fostering sustainable use of land. These initiatives reflect on our commitment to further develop our green future.
Я рад всем сообщить, что сейчас в Казахстане разрабатывается АНУФ 3.0, который на самом деле будет включать вопросы, посвященные вопросам образования, уязвимости детей и молодежи. Это будет отдельная глава.
I would like to particularly highlight that in our NDC 3.0, we have a special chapter that will be addressed to the issues of youth and young children, and particularly to their education. And this will be a separate chapter in what we do.
И эта глава, на самом деле, будет разрабатываться в сотрудничестве с UNICEF и обеспечит интеграцию лучших практик и знаний, накопленных вещей организаций в области защиты детей.
And of course, this chapter will be done not only by us, but in partnership with UNICEF, so that we reflect on the rights and the opportunities for children to protect their rights and what they do and to make sure that they're climate resilient.
Я тоже хочу отметить, что молодежь является лидерами завтрашнего дня, но и мощными защитниками перемен уже сегодня. И ЮНИСЕФ играет ключевую роль в мобилизации ресурсов и экспертизы для усиления усилий Казахстана для создания климатической устойчивости.
The role of youth and children is hard to underestimate. We know that they are future leaders and they will be playing an important role, as well as UNICEF, to maintain that they have enough capacity and expertise to promote these issues.
И в целом эти вопросы касаются не только нашей страны, это вопросы нашего региона. Я надеюсь, что ЮНИСЕФ будет продолжать сотрудничать с нами и становиться все более, и наши отношения будут все более и более крепкими.
And of course, these issues are not only for Kazakhstan, we're definitely working for Kazakhstan, but they have the regional scale. And of course, we'll be working with UNICEF to promote this and upgrade these ideas at a higher level. And thank you very much and we'll be looking for collaborating for common goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister, and thank you also for sharing the importance of education in climate action. And UNICEF is, of course, ready to continue this collaboration. And we also hope that the innovative solutions that Kazakhstan is now exploring when it comes to climate change education will be something that we can share with other countries in the region. It's an innovative approach. It encompasses the educational standards, but it also encompasses teacher training as well as elements of infrastructure development. So thank you very much, Vice Minister. So I would now like to invite the State Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, Aidona, from Moldova. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for organizing such a great event. And I have an anniversary here. It's my third COP, third event at NDC Partnership, you know, and I'm talking about youth. What does it mean? I feel really young. Yeah, thank you so much. It's an anniversary that I have to celebrate. What about youth, you know, and climate? Climate and youth, both of them are young. And you can tell that because both of them are vulnerable. And what we have to do, we have to really take into account everything, sensible moments, emotions and everything, and to put all the efforts to take all the necessary action in order to support and protect climate, and support and protect youth. This is our future because they both belong to us. It depends on us what we will do with the future climate or the planet and with the future of our youth. Because without a climate, without a secure climate, our kids will have no future. So what does it mean and what the Minister of Environment is doing? Well, I will tell you from my own story, how we were, put in the moment to think how we involve youth. And this is Marina, my colleague is there in the back. She's on climate change section head. And we were participating in an event organized, I think, by NDC, UNDP. It was a webinar. What is the role of youth in NDC? And we thought that maybe because we feel young, we were participating, and how this will be done, And basically, you know what? I found out that we have a lot of work to do. That's why the next moment what I did, I invited UNICEF on board and working close with them. They're great. They do great things that we don't know, We just have to open their reports, read them carefully, because I read the 90 pages report and I found out that we have a lot of work to do because our policies literally don't say anything about young. And this is really a shame. That we're doing, the process of adopting a policy, it takes like 4 years, and then what we do, we don't think about future. We think sectorial, we think how to protect environment, but we don't think how to protect environment and youth. This is a hand-to-hand magic. So basically, this is a climate landscape analysis for children. It was drafted by UNICEF, and I would like to thank you for the regional, for the national. They have great people, great professionals who are working on that and identifying the gaps that need to be strengthened. This is what I identified, and this is what we have to do it back. And moreover, UNICEF will help us with the chapter separate on NDC. So they're now working hard on that. I know that we will have a lot of homework to do after this chapter in NDC, but I'm happy that we identified now, because this is what we have to do. We have to say words and loudly say, hey, do it. Involve kids, you involve youth, and so on and so forth. But, don't take it, literally back, because I'm getting back and they will say, hey, are you working there or not, Why are you just blaming the Minister of Environment? Everyone blames Minister of Environment. What? You see, even the microphone is not working. This is what they are doing. They are closing our microphones because we make people feel uncomfortable. Yes, of course. Turn the light, walk more. Don't use the car. Well, it's useful to use a car, It's hard to walk a lot. Okay, so let me be really concise and get on what we're doing. We're doing with youth a lot. Firstly, we have our staff from the Ministry of Environment, more than 50% are youth. They just fresh graduates. What we do, we teach them. You know why? Because literally we do not have specializations that are purely on climate, on protection of the climate. We have climate and agriculture, or forestry and national parks, and whatever, Hey, guys, it's climate. Wake up, do the climate. Teach them what they have to do. So what we did, we adopted a program at the Ministry of Environment, and we're trying to go to schools, literally going to school and teach them what is the natural protected areas, what do you do in case of the hazards, what do you do in case of that or that or that. But, I went to my daughter's school. She was embarrassed at me. I don't know why. Well, maybe, because I'm talking a lot and about climate. She was staying in the corner and we're, that's Caroline's mom, she's talking about natural protected areas. Yeah, it's good, This is the first thing. Second one, I'm teaching at the Moldova State University, and this is what, I'm doing the next step, taking the youth on board and fishing them. You're very good. Let's come to the Ministry of Environment. We have a spot of you supporting the institutions and so on and so forth. So I'm stopping here. Thank you so much, UNICEF, for what you're doing. I'm telling you, I read the report. I was surprised how much work I have to do back with climate change section. But nevertheless, NDC will do the good work to get on board the youth. We do have a very literally educated youth generation, and Steliana will tell me, because she's from our country, and will tell that literally very well educated kids. There are a lot of very young, specialists, they making strikes, protect the environment, walk, and so on and so forth. And I'm telling the story when a young journalist on the day, on zero, I don't know, carbon or whatever, and the minister was going to the government, and they stop her and tell, hey, you have to walk to the government, don't use the car, and she's like, I'm related to the government, don't care, just use it. This is about young. They active, they don't, they blame you, and they show you, the literally. And at the end, I'm telling you that I have a 4-year girl at home who is picturing me dead, the girls, surrounding the dad, and somewhere apart is mom. When they ask you, why is mom apart? Because she's at work. So I'm at work, but the truth is said by the youth. So let's listen to them. Thank you so much.
Leona, thank you so much for your inspirational intervention. I should also say that Moldova is one of the countries in our region that is spearheading social protection as a key climate change adaptation measure. So thank you so much for sharing the experiences from Moldova. So dear Natalia, we're eager to hear about the experiences from Ukraine and how you are now assessing the role of addressing the disproportionate impact on children in the upcoming NDC 3.0. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And I have a tough task now, because the distinguished deputy minister said everything very perfectly aligned and some fundamentally structured. And it's a deep respect to the work Kazakhstan is doing on climate change and on NDC, on ETS. They do a lot of work on ETS. And distinguished deputy minister from Moldova said a very emotional thing about the children and everything. So I'm going to start with their interesting part and then switch to boring part, or should I start with the boring part and then switch to interesting? So the interesting part. I don't know how many people know me. I'm with climate change for too long. I would very much same. Okay, too long. So I was a young mom with a child of 2 months old, and I was entering the UN facility, and I was not allowed to enter a UN facility with a child in my hand, because that when you enter a UN facility, you actually out of the governmental land and you enter in another land, another jurisdiction. And because the health insurance does not cover the UN's jurisdiction, so their security did not allow me in. So I started a fight, not a fight, but I went all the way up to the executive secretary, trying to say, listen, I have to attend the meeting. I have a 2-month-old baby, and there is no choice. So they actually said, okay, we need to go to the UN, to the New York. And that was in 2012, in February 2012. So it was quite a long time ago. So my son, who was with me that time, is turning 13 this year. God bless, inshallah. That he is actually the reason why UN system does allow kids at their venues, and he is the reason why you have this mother and baby rooms, you have the whole infrastructure, administrative organization to enter the whole system. Because that was the day I came in and I was like, listen, I don't have a choice. I'm not going to go back. I'm here. I'm with the child. You have to help me. So I don't know who was that security guard and who was the head of the security at that moment, but big thank to him. That is the only reason. That is the start. It's not a reason. It's the start, the kickoff of letting children in the UN process just starting to enter the venue. That was a fun part. There is a boring part. And his name is Matteo, and like he doesn't know that he always been called EB baby because I was a part of the executive board. So he's, huh? Okay, Matteo. Okay. And then I think this is when I start thinking, okay, kids are not even allowed physically at the venue, so that must be some kind of wrong, because like it is not correct. But then comes the boring part. So Ukraine had joined, as you probably all know, Ukraine had joined the Declaration on Youth, Children, and Climate Action last year. And recently, I think a couple of months ago, I think a UNICEF colleague from Ukraine, if they're here, will know better. Their Ukrainian Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources and UNICEF signed a memorandum of understanding on establishing their youth council under the Minister of Environment, with the Minister of Environment. And with the goal that the youth councils will emerge to other ministries. So it's not just the Minister of Environment who will have that, but it also other ministers will have that. And I know it sounds like a really small step, but for governmental officials, I don't know how many there are here, you would understand. So you have to start somewhere, right? And this is a very simple example from civil society. So you have a civil society council, and then you take them on board, you consult with them, and then you engage them into the decision-making process. So the idea this youth board will participate and contribute to NDC process development. I'm not going to tell you that we already have a vision. We have a plan. And we also need a lot of coordination with other ministries. So the Minister of Environment has a lot of work to do, but there is a Minister of Healthcare. There's a Minister of Social Protection. And they sort of say like, yeah, that's a great idea. You see that plan? We agree with that. Cut off our name out of the implementing agency and we're fine. It's like, no, it's not going to work like this. We're not going to cut you off of this table which says, do this and this and this. Who is in charge? Minister of Social Protection. They're going to stay there. You don't have a choice, right? So, and it is a lot of work within the government. And I know young people very eager to reach results very fast. But you have to be patient with the government because it's, as I said, it's a boring part. So in order to start, you've been engaged in real terms, not just outside of, on the margins. There has to be a structure. Like example of my son. You start entering the system, it takes longer, but then you're full scale participation. And I'm not telling you it's gonna be easy. And I'm not telling you that Minister of Environment will fall in love with the Minister of Social Protection or Healthcare and will live happily ever after. It's not gonna happen. And then the only hope we have here, and I'm sorry, you have UNICEF, because they are the one who is gonna make them live happily ever after, because it is not an easy task, and unless you have someone facilitating there, as a negotiation group, so you've seen that there are parties sit there, and if there is no facilitator in the front, the consensus is not going to happen and decisions not going to be made. So I see really a lot of role for UNDP and for UNICEF here as a role of facilitator. UNICEF holds the knowledge, experience, and will be our facilitator within this process. And again, I've heard a lot today from Moldova. Thank you very much. And again, the NDCs, they're long-term, right? So you eventually, yes, we all feel young because we're here, we run, but it is has a long-term perspective. So you also have to make sure that the long-term perspective for the youth is there. And again, you have to make sure within the government that the policies is cross-ministerial, cross-economy, whole of the government, which is not going to be a simple task. And after and when we adopt the NDC with the child-sensitive, child-centric, then comes the most difficult part, implementation. So with that implementation plan, it is a nice words, there's a perfectly framed but implementation is a key. And there comes the UNICEF facilitation, sorry, colleagues, and UNDP facilitation part, helping the government to, to navigate for that complex process. And again, the Minister of Environment does not have answers because it's beyond their responsibility. My colleagues from Ministry, no, there is a mandate, which does not include youth. So it doesn't really literally, physically, judicially allows us to deal with youth issues. So that is also something to look at. So again, thank you UNDP and UNICEF for making that visual and putting that problem at the table. And we're looking forward for your facilitation, skillful, brightful, and committed facilitation of this process. Without your international development agencies, we're not going to be able to actually move forward. And we don't even have time to read the report. I totally agree, not even to mention to write the report. So we welcome your work, and we really appreciate that. And I think I want to wish everyone successful NDC writing, because I know what it is. I'm still in the psychological rehab after the second NDC of Ukraine writing. So again, thank you so much. I think this is the right way to do. It's going to be slow, guys, ladies, but it will be there. So thank you.
Thank you, Natalia, and thank you everyone for participating, distinguished panelists. Thank you for sharing your insightful and reflective views, ideas, experiences. This is extremely helpful. We take the challenge. We will follow up on the process, as Daliana said. We are committed as a UN family to take this forward, because the NDC 3.0 is extremely important for the future of climate action. And we see the commitment from the governments to make this a child-centric NDC 3.0. And we will do our best to support you in the way we can to make this happen. So thank you everyone for this. We look forward to the next step. And I take the challenge at COP30, when you will have the NDC in place. We will hold you accountable to make sure that it's indeed child-centric. So thank you very much.